What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for stopping by. Today, we're going to be talking about Silent Hill 2. And man, I got a lot to say about this game. Just want to jump in. Had a great time with this one. No better time to play this game than now, October, almost Halloween. I never played Silent Hill 2 back in the day, so this was my first experience. Couldn't help but, compare it to some of the other survival horror games out there that I think are amazing, like Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 2, even 7 and 8. Callisto Protocol didn't hit the mark for me. There was a lot of frustration with that game, but I still enjoyed the atmosphere and kind of what it was going for, even though it didn't really land with me, and I think it didn't land with a lot of people, but I still kind of enjoyed some of that. I couldn't help but compare this game to those and see, like, does it stand on its own? Does it stack up against some of the best out there? And my answer to that is yes. First of all, it gives me hope that, Konami is doing these games right, because I can't wait for Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. From everything we've seen for that game, this was kind of their test, right? Obviously the Bloober team made the game, but Konami's really behind, this project, and it's just nice. This was, to me, a test, because when I first heard about this, when I first heard Konami was doing all this stuff, I was like, they're gonna have to sell it. They're gonna have to sell me on this. I'm not gonna just blindly get excited. I'm so glad that I got my hands on Silent Hill 2, because this was a really fun game. Despite some shortcomings, despite some areas of frustration, I think overall this game was really good, and I had a really good time with it. If you like horror, if you like survival horror games, this is a game that you want to put on your plate for sure. Now, I want to talk about some of the good stuff, some of the bad stuff. We'll just get into it, man. The atmosphere, the tension, just like the moment to moment in this game is crazy, and I think it's up there. I don't know, like, if Dead Space or this one takes the cake, but when it comes to, like, just being put in the most, like, uncomfortable moments, just straight up horror, man, like horror fuel, just content. Like, it's really hard to kind of hard to, like, compare which one is crazier, but I really think Silent Hill 2 takes it up a notch. I mean, when you add the sound design, the level of immersion, the quality in, like, the atmosphere and the ambiance, and just like what you're seeing and what you're doing, it really takes the cake, I think, in my opinion. Even though Dead Space, I mean, sci-fi horror is something else, and I think that's why that game is just so crazy, and if you've played it, you know what I mean. But Silent Hill 2, man, there were moments in this game where I was like, holy shit, this is this is crazy. I got to get through it, man. I got to get through this part. In my opinion, the best part about this game is the atmosphere and the sound design, especially with headphones. This is the best way to play this game, and I think this is, in my opinion, if you're gonna play a game like this, you might as well go all the way in, be crazy, wear headphones, because you're gonna pick up on things that you wouldn't really on a TV. Like, you need the detail in a game like this, and it just adds to that level of immersion and scare and fear factor. This game was wild at moments. I think it started a little slow, and then it kind of got its bearing. There were moments, there were sections in this game where I felt like the pacing was a little bit off. Like, I kind of felt like, okay, like I've seen and done this area. Let's move on, but you're still kind of in there. I think my favorite place was the hospital scene. Before it went like dark underworld mode, I just thought that was really, really good. There's something really iconic about like a mental hospital and everything's gone to shit. You're pretty much trying to find your way through. You're solving puzzles. And by the way, some of the puzzles in this game are so bad. I'm sorry. I thought some of these puzzles weren't that great. Some of these puzzles, like, I was completely lost. I didn't know what to do. And some puzzles I thought were really, really creative. Like, there's this one puzzle in the hospital scene where in order to unlock the safe, you have to find the pictures on the wall and you gotta, figure out, like, I think there was a memo that helped you out, like, look at the pictures and then you put that together. Like, the pictures had number of people, number of trees, number of whatever, and I got those numbers and then I put it in the safe and I was like, wow, that worked. It's that level of creativity that really, really is satisfying to me, because to me that was like a really well done puzzle. And then some other puzzles were just kind of like, man, I don't know about this one, man. Killed the pacing. One thing I really like about this game is the fact that, like, you really need to use the map, and it made me really just open up the map. And I like the way, some areas were kind of like checked off because you visited it, and then, some areas kind of help you by telling you kind of, this is here or this is where you need to go. I never really use the map in these type of games, or if I do, it's very, very minimal. In this game, I felt like I had to open up the map a lot because the game is so dark and it's really easy to kind of lose track of like where you're at. I think some areas I just, I naturally try to memorize like where I'm going, and you backtrack a lot and stuff like that. So you have an idea of like where you're going. But some areas, it's so dark and you got to backtrack so many times, and there's so many like rooms and doors and areas, and the map really helps. And the map in this game was really, really well done. And I think the map just kind of went along with the gameplay. I felt like it didn't hinder the experience. Like, I really enjoyed opening the map. It was part of the experience, and I really liked that a lot. Now, atmosphere, tension, vibe, fear factor, sound design, all of that stuff is really good. I loved all of that, and I think those are the things that really made this game what it is. The levels of frustration, or the moments of frustration that I had with this game, was the combat. And I've heard even in the original the combat wasn't that great, but I felt like that isn't really a great excuse here. What do I mean when I talk about the combat is really the melee. I thought the melee was really weak, and it reminds me of Callisto Protocol, when you end up doing this dance where you attack, dodge, and sometimes you get punished for attacking twice, and then you trade blows. So you're both taking damage. And that's something that I really, really hated about this game, because you either got me or I got you. I hate the fact that, like, you trade blows. That was just something that really irritated me. So you had to really, really focus on melee. The melee is already clunky and awkward. So I felt like that was already a weak point. And then when you trade blows, it made it even worse. I don't know if that was like intentional, if that was by design, I don't know. But the combat was very, very clunky. The shooting, passable. It wasn't that bad, but it did its thing. It's really the combat that I think is the weakest point in the game. It's okay because everything else kind of carries it for me. Another thing that I really liked about this game is the enemy design. Just so, man, it, like, some of these enemies are just creepy. Especially the I think it's called the mannequin, the thing with legs and legs for arms. Like, dude, especially later on when it starts to crawl like a spider, that thing is so creepy, dude. Again, tension, atmosphere, vibes. The enemy design was really, really good. I learned that the nurses were strong, so I had to keep my shotgun ammo for them, because they were like sponges to my pistol. Overall though, man, I really walked away enjoying this game. If you're a survival horror fan, this is really something you need to play. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I couldn't help but compare it to some of my favorite games, some of my favorite survival horror games. You know, Resident Evil is not that scary, even though it has scary elements. And then Dead Space is the one that I really try to compare this game to naturally, just because they're both terrifying and scary, and the vibes are just, you know, the vibes really ramp up in some moments. Silent Hill 2 was really good, dude. It was really good. Overall, walking away from this game, I really thought that they did a good job here. It's not a perfect game. I wouldn't say like this is, you know, the best maybe survival horror game out there. I still enjoy, you know, I think I still enjoyed the other games. You know, I love Resident Evil games, man. I love Dead Space. I don't know where I would compare this game. I know that they nailed the horror down very, very well. And I gotta give them credit for this, man. That is something that I gotta give kudos to Bloober and Konami for. I think they did this game justice, despite, you know, some of the shortcomings, despite some of the levels of frustration, you know, sprinkled out through the experience, some of the puzzles, the combat, some of the pacing. You know, I thought this game was a little bit longer than it needed to be. I remember around the end of the game, I was like, "Is this game done yet?" like this was a pretty long, I felt like, survival horror game. But all in all, I walked away with a really good experience, man. This game terrified me in some moments. It really just put me in a mood. I love that, man. I love when a game scares me, makes me feel uncomfortable. You know, one of the reasons why I love survival horror games so much is just going in blind, trying to figure it out, trying to make it all the way to the end. And there's just a level of satisfaction when it comes to that. But that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Silent Hill 2. If you like this video, hit that like button. Consider subscribing. If you are, I appreciate you. And I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much.